What's up? This is Ty.
Where's the music, Ty?
Oh, you already started it? Oh.
Let it out.
Oh, we back. Let it out.
Oh, let it out.
All right, let's get it started, Joe.
Let's get it started. Ha! We have missed you, Ty. Father.
I missed you too. I missed everything about this space, the energy that it brings. I'm so glad to be back.
Oh my goodness. Well, if you don't know, I'm Joe.
And I'm Ty.
And this is the 2B podcast. Welcome back. And you already know what it is. We're two Black educators, Boston-based, and we just want to do all things to uplift Black excellence.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Listen, especially in a time like this, we need to uplift ourselves, build within our communities. First and foremost, we got to give a shout out to Black women because they keep doing the damn thing. We can't skip by what they did in the election. I mean, it's continuous Black excellence from Black women. They do it time and time again, and they don't get enough of the credit. And I'm going to make sure that they get it right here and now.
We appreciate you. We appreciate you. And making sure that you know we are not just saying it. We are going to bring you some Black lady excellence. You don't even know what you're in store for. Listen. The inspiration is real. I keep running into Black women. I'm like, how many lives do I get so I can be like you when I grow up? I'm just saying. It's a little teaser, but here we are on this Thursday, November 19th. You saw me check my phone because I was talking about April last time. So, just to get it right.
The way these dates run together during the pandemic, it could be any day, quite honestly. It could be any day right now.
It really could be. Oh, my goodness. So, we're always going to check in. And Ty, something that I'm really grateful for?
Talk to me.
You being back. So first, I'm just really grateful. And, with the Day of Thanks coming up really quickly, I think that, it behooves us to take a moment to be grateful. So Ty, what are you grateful for? What's bringing you joy?
This is too easy. Listen, so on November 1st, 2020, my life was altered. It was changed in the most, it's so hard to put it into words. My daughter was born. I mean, listen, that transition into fatherhood is really hard to really explain because this is an immediate, innate sense of protection, of, no, you didn't. you did it. But all I can say is, don't put it back on the spot. All I can say is, I have never had such emotion come just rushing over me, like the moment that she was born, and I was able to catch her in the water, and it was just such a beautiful moment. It was all the things I've heard described, and then more. And some more. And it really is hard to put into words. And then second from that, I am so thankful for my wife. Natasha, let me tell you about Natasha Adeyemi. Let me tell you about Natasha Justina Adeyemi. Her whole government out there. This woman right here. So for those who don't know, I won't tell all our business, but we had a home birth. Right? We had a home birth. And it was two main reasons for that. One, I would tell you, is that with everything going on with COVID-19 and the restrictions of who could come into the hospital, whether or not you had to get tested, having to wear a mask, not me, but her, in the midst of delivery. I don't know how you're supposed to breathe and deliver at the same time. But those were some of the restrictions. Not being able to bring more than one person with you. So let's say you have your spouse and a support person, like a doula or a midwife. They weren't allowed to come. So all of those things combined were part of why we chose a home birth. And the other part was really just being able to have agency over the process. And so my wife, she experienced what many Black women have experienced, and that is not feeling cared for, not being held by the medical professionals that are supposed to be there to guide her, to ensure that her health is paramount during the delivery process, and especially during pregnancy. So I was just thankful that we were able to have the resources, like the midwives that we had, like the doula that we had. Shout out to Deshauna, shout out to Stephanie. I'll drop their socials in the chat as well, because they were phenomenal. And so I remember looking around the room, and I have my wife, and I have a Black doula, a Black midwife, a Latinx midwife, and we just brought this life into the world together, and it was just the most beautiful experience. And so I'm so thankful for my wife. And plus, listen, when I tell you this woman has been a trooper, those cluster feedings they be talking about, that is not me. I'm just being honest. Okay, but listen, that is what I'm thankful for. How about you, Joe? What do you think?
I don't know why I let you go first, because like I'm like, and moving on. Like, do we need more? Actually, I am excited to say that I did not bring new life into the world, but there is a new life in mine. I have a new brother. A new brother. His name is Samuel Jatindra Jr. And yeah, I have a new brother.
Legacy.
2 days ago. I did not make a picture.
You didn't make a slide for your old brother?
Why you gotta call me out like that though? No, I didn't make a slide for my old brother. In 2 weeks. So what you because let me tell you, there's so much joy. So in case you couldn't tell, if you're an avid watcher, you're like, that's not Joe's house. And you'd be right. I'm not home. And so I was always coming back to California to celebrate the Day of Thanks with my sister and my mother. And I was going to come on Sunday because, it's hard to travel during the week, school full time, work full time. It's difficult. But my sister, she's my heart. She goes, can't you come earlier? And I was like, fine, I'll look. So I find this flight, the cheapest flight has a layover, which is annoying. But I'm like, it's a quick layover, whatever. The layover is in LA, which is where my father is. So because I allowed myself to want to spend more time with my family, I get to spend time with my newly born brother in just tomorrow. Tomorrow, I get to see him, and I get to see my family down in Southern California, which I wasn't planning on doing. So, blessings on blessings. And I'll tell you, he already takes after his big sister because no, whoa.
Go ahead, let's hear it.
Because people don't know this, but I was born dead, okay? And he was not born dead, but he was born not, needing some assistance breathing. And I said, listen, nobody tells you this, but when you're born dead, you don't have a fear of dying. You live a little bit more free. So if people know me, they're like, oh, maybe that makes sense. So I'm excited to see how free my brother is and how he lives. But I will definitely send pictures. So we got 2 new family members. Ty, congratulations to your little princess.
Congratulations to you and your family as well. Young Prince. I think it's just indicative of what we need to do in this time, because 2020 has taken so much from us. It's just a tremendous amount of loss in so many ways. We can't even quantify the amount of loss that we've experienced in 2020. And now it's a scary thought, but I feel like I need to voice this, to be on the cusp of 2021 and to know that we're still in the midst.
How do I remove the stream? We can't be thinking about this carrying over into
listen, but that's even more reason why we have to elevate and highlight the positives, the blessings that we've experienced. That's another reason why.
We have to pivot our perspective. Exactly what this
is
all about. And actually, tying we're let's get to it. We got excited. We're gonna bring on this queen. Listen, y'all aren't ready. I'm hardly ready. I'm a little bit more. I'm trying to keep it cool so I can introduce her well, but
let it out.
Stammer a little bit. You know why? Okay, listen, doctor. and before I keep going, listen, I'm reading this. I was like, where did you get here? Where did you become a doctor from? Harvard. I was like, oh my goodness. I was gonna say we walk the same streets, but alas, We ain't at
Folks
that.
just be educated and don't even tell you. Just
same classrooms, okay?
folks just have 3 and 4 degrees and don't mention it. Just so humble.
Listen, she's a double doctor because she has her JD, okay?
Come on. She need to come to the stage. Bring her on, please.
Okay, sorry. Let me tell you. And she was a teacher in Baltimore. So Dr. Yasmin Mumbi has been doing her yoga and meditation practice for 11 years. And it started when she was teaching middle school social studies in Baltimore, right? Because she was like, I don't want meds. I know that whatever I need to do, the powers are within me to kind of quell my anxiety and restore energy. And she's looking at the well-being of her students, and she's just frustrated, like we are, with like the disservice that they are providing. She's like, you know what? I'm going to do it. So she has led numerous organizational grassroots movements, and she has students now who have lead-free water. It's incredible. And so she's really here to tell us about how we, through yoga, sound art, organizing strategies, and digital mediums, all of these things that she's using right now, how we can use that to bring about self-care. Because if there is anything else that we need, it is self-care. Please let me just read these degrees. One second. Yasmin earned her bachelor's and master's degrees from Johns Hopkins University. It's this thing. Oh my goodness. Johns Hopkins University. I am just having a brief technical difficulty. And then she went and got her doctorate degree of education leadership at the Harvard Graduate School of Education, and her JD at the University of Maryland. Let's give it up and clap as if she can hear you for Dr. Yasmin Mumbi.
Breathe, stretch, shake.
That's wonderful. Thank you for welcoming me.
Thank you for choosing to give your time to us. Thank you so much.
You deserve all of that praise and then some.
Thank you.
Welcome. And Dr. Mumbi, may I call you Yasmin?
Yes, please.
No, I'm all the respect. There's a Black woman who's a doctor. I'm doctor. So, with your permission.
That's a perspective pivot in itself.
We talk about elevating Black women, and we don't want to recognize the degrees and put that respect on their. Listen, it is an honor to be able to call you doctor and acknowledge the work that it took for you to become a doctor. And we need to realize that is what you are doing when you call somebody by the title that they earn. So this is Dr. Mumbi, and I asked permission to call her Yasmin. And if you haven't, I'm gonna need you to write Dr. Mumbi. Just so we're clear. When you receive the permission, you can call her by her name.
Thank you.
Seriously, thank you so much for being here. And that was just such a short snippet of your life. Will you tell us more about yourself?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me in. This is such a nourishing and enveloping environment. And I just I feel all the community in my belly, in my heart. So I'm just really happy to be with both of you and what you've created for all of us. Yeah, so I'm from Baltimore, born and raised. And yes.
What side or east side? I gotta ask.
Huh?
West side or east side?
Oh, I grew up on West.
Oh, West side. See, I happen to know a lot of people from Baltimore, so I know you gotta rep the west of the east, West side, Baltimore. Okay.
Yeah. So I grew up all around, in and out of Baltimore, West Side, of course. Grew up there, and then I actually ended up going to Hopkins, and then I ended up teaching in Park Heights over West as well. So studies, And what I found in my time as a teacher was that all that we carry was too much for us to hold. And I didn't feel like I was receiving the supports I needed so I could be the fullest expression of who I am to then support the children in front of me and families who come in and trust me with their children. And you're right, I didn't want a pill. I was like, no, I want to still be present in life. And I just also want to navigate these feelings of anxiety and feeling like I'm overwhelmed and I'm not supported. And so what, in addition to turning to yoga and meditation to help me internally regulate and support myself, I then turned to structural change because we are suffering under a system that's inequitable. And so we're embodying that in the way it shows up in our anxieties, in our restlessness, in our inability to catch our breath. And so you can't just put on individual action. You got to go after structural change. So I ended up being a community organizer regarding education equity. And as I did that today, I went to law school at night because I wasn't going to go into these rooms with legislators and have them talk over me and I want to be able to speak the same terms they could speak so that I can then also organize people who were most impacted by the policies. So that's me.
So that's me. Like, I wanted to know the insides and the outsides so that you weren't going to play me, because that's the thing. They try to play you. So it's like, no, I know the jargon. I know what you're doing is unlawful. And I know what structural change we could do to make the changes necessary to make this an equitable society. Listen, we might have to have you on to just talk about like education reform, because I was like, when I had to catch myself like, this is self-care. This is self-care, not education reform. Because Lord, what you said at the beginning though about like, we are asked to do so much. And to be in service of our students, we ultimately need to be whole people, to be in service of anyone that we are going to be intimately in community with. We need to be good to ourselves. So, what was it that made you make this full transition into health and wellness?
So there were two very important moments in my life that allowed for the entry into this. Into the entry into this offering of wholeness and being well. And the first one was when I was I was in my early 20s and I had been teaching for like a number of years, and that's when I was like, there has to be a different way to do this because it's not getting easier, because there's always something that's changing in education that's then put on teachers and our shoulders to then like figure out. So yoga was there for me then, and I was a practitioner. So I've been practicing for about 11 years. Okay. And then the second entry into this pathway, this journey, was when I got very, very sick. And I got very, very sick and very stressed, and doctors didn't understand the origin of my illnesses. And I say illnesses because within the span of 7 months, I had surgery to remove a tumor from my abdomen, a tumor from my chest, fortunately benign, and I had lost eyesight. I had lost my eyesight.
My God.
I had a blood clot, and it had done severe damage. And thank God it presented in my eye because it was on its way to my brain. So I was like, I can't do this. And I know, and I got that stressed because I was just producing and producing and producing, and I wasn't resting. I wasn't nourishing myself, and I wasn't around people who were nourishing. I was around people who were depleting and taking from me. And So I was like, I can't live this way. My mother had just been diagnosed with cancer, and just like my world view just shifted about what was essential.
Right.
And so I turned from that way of being, from that way of thinking that my value was placed on my productivity in this capitalist world. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. Unfortunately, at that time, I just got into the doctoral program at Harvard, and it was a chance for me to slow down and reassess what I cared about and come out.
What a journey.
Yeah.
And are you free of your, like, how's your eyesight? Do you have it all back? How's your, like, oh my goodness.
So every line that you see, should I close my right eye and just look out of my left, every line has a meaning to it. So for me, when I see that, I'm like, there's always like another pathway. It's never a straight way of looking at or experiencing something. And I know that to be true because when I look through my left eye, because of the experience I went through, there are no straight lines that appear for me.
There's a lesson in that.
There aren't.
Is this Minister Yasmin too? I just felt a word come through.
Woo! There are no straight lines. There's no one path.
Hello, somebody.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you. How have you sustained this practice? Like, even before we are in COVID, Ty's talking about we're about to hit 2021, and we're in Boston, and we are at what may be considered an uncontrollable spread.
Yep.
And so this is likely to carry on into 2001. So how are you using this practice to help you cope with not only COVID, because COVID is a viral pandemic, but the OG pandemic is racism that COVID has only exacerbated, right?
True story.
Because this dual pandemic makes them seem like they occurred at the same time, and I don't really appreciate that. So this pandemic, how are you using it to kind of heal and restore? And how can other people, like, what are some tools and tips other people could do?
Acknowledge that this is nothing that is business as usual. So acknowledge the reality of what it is. Like, I'm not interested in sugarcoating or looking at it from an optimistic point. I'm looking at a realist point of view. My father had COVID. He was in the hospital. I had COVID. A number of my family members had COVID. Like, the amount of pain that we have endured as Black people in a year's span, I'm not going to deny that. So the first thing for me is to get really real about the situation and understand that where we are is not normal. Like, this is not okay. All right?
Not okay. Not okay.
Of Black people and unarmed, sanctioned by police and state representation and legislatures who refuse to change laws that allow police officers to no longer have immunity when they engage in wrongdoing. Like, none of that is okay. So your anger is very valid. Know that if you're listening. So how do I transmute that? How do I transmute that pain and that grief? Breathing, like actual breathing exercises support me. And we'll go through that towards the end of this. I'd love to have time to share some of that.
Please.
Movement. So my practice is through yoga, and I have my mat behind me because it goes wherever I go. So if you have a meditative movement, that could be walking, that could be running, whatever it is that allows you to focus on one thing and one thing only, so that the anxiety and the fluctuations of the mind that come up during your daily routine don't come into that practice because this is the time to restore and renew. Thirdly, the people, community around you. Now, we are socially distancing, but who are you choosing to spend your time with? They've got to be nourishing and loving, right? With love. How are you fueling yourself? What are you eating? What you know? And just notice if you're turning to comfort foods, and notice if you're also turning to foods that are depleting you and maybe aren't so nourishing for you and your strength. How am I supporting others is part of the question you asked me. I didn't think that I would be called in this way, but during this time, I have received a number of just opportunities to support predominantly Black people through this journey through yoga and meditation. And so that's been refreshing and different because typically when I've been practicing yoga, it's predominantly white, and then there's just me, or like maybe one other. And so this opportunity for a community of our own to then start looking at, okay, what about these other practices and who that I trust? I've been invited in to do things with them as well. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm just trying to drink enough water, but I'm not. I'm trying.
I know that struggle. I got my bottle right here, and it's not enough. It is not enough. We might need to do another challenge. We did 100K a day, and we overdue. We might need to drink water in December. I don't know.
Yo, can you tell we host together?
But I think you just gave us a great segue into something I think many of us have struggled with, partly because we're at home, right? And so being at home in 2020, life is just different. I can hit an app on my phone and DoorDash appears, Uber Eats appears, Pizza Hut, Domino's, everything can show up at my doorstep. What'd you say?
Name it, I ate it.
Thank you. And so we all know a lot of these options that are readily available to us are just not healthy. And so there's an old adage that your body is your body is your temple. And so I wonder, how does diet and cooking, how does that factor into your self-care routine? Because I'm looking for some tips personally, and I'm sure there are others as well.
Yeah. So every meal that I have right now, I've been focusing it more on whether or not it's aligned with, and this is something you might not be familiar with or might already be. I'm definitely not an expert on it, but in line with Ayurveda. So Ayurveda is you're looking at me like, oh, okay, yeah. So
I'm intrigued. Please tell us.
Essentially, it's food as medicine, and it comes out of the Vedic tradition of South Asia, present day India, and the ancient wisdom of how are you nourishing yourself in alignment, in accordance with your temperament or your typical way of being. And so there are doshas, 3 doshas, and my dosha is I'm fire, I'm hot, I digest fast, I transmute whatever comes in comes out pretty fast, whether that's intellectually, creatively, physically, I work out a lot, and I burn a lot of fuel and energy. That's just my way of being. And I also need nourishing practices to slow me down, calm me, at peace. And so according to Ayurveda and my dosha, I look at the tastes that need to be included in each meal and whether one is supporting my way of being or kind of adding fuel to the fire. So I love hot sauce and I love really sour things, but that kind of agitates my agni, that agitates my dosha. And so I look for complementary tastes that support me. So look up Ayurveda, and it's there are a number of practitioners who offer sessions, Ayurvedic consultation sessions, and more understanding and information about your dosha, so your way, your temperament, your way of being, and how you can better nourish that. I will make a plug for one person who I do absolutely trust. She is an Ayurveda practitioner and offers consultations. Her name is Anjali Sunita. I can include her information. She and I lead a number of yogic sessions together, And I've been learning a lot from her this time regarding Ayurveda and supporting my nourishment, given my temperament just to be really fiery. I'm just really edgy sometimes. So food and medicine.
So what I heard, let me make sure I heard this correctly. Figure out my dosha.
Yes.
Drink more water.
Please.
Add hot sauce. I got it. I got it. That's I could do that. That's doable.
Oh my goodness. You know, the only reason I know about Ayurveda and dosha is actually because of Deepak Chopra. And so, but I forgot I'm like, what was it? I took the whole quiz. Clearly I'm not paying enough attention. So thank you for bringing me back. I signed up for a master class that I ended up not attending. So like, thank you. Like, yes, we need to go back and eat things that truly fuel not just our bodies, but our spirits is what I'm understanding. Yes. Oh my gosh.
And there are also, you remind me, there are other ancestral and indigenous practices, and know that what works for you is essential and just as significant, even if I didn't talk about it in this session.
Thank you. Thank you for naming that. Oh my goodness, my brain is just like, the questions are like bing, 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 bing. Because you said something about how you will go to yoga sessions and it is predominantly white.
Oh.
Yoga is not white. It did not, like, I feel like there is this amazing practice that has roots into the East. I believe it originated in India, and it has become westernized, and we have lost. Now it's like exercise. But when I was first introduced to yoga, it was supposed to be like a spiritual, like exercise, as like the exercise was a side effect of the spiritual renewal that you were getting. Is this, and I'm an outsider, so is this what you're experiencing? And what are you doing to kind of combat or like bring tradition back in to yoga?
Yes. Okay, great. Good. I've been writing a lot about this. So you're right. So yoga is a spiritual practice that in the way in its origin originated in South Asia. There are now research that's coming up about similar practices with movement and meditation, awareness practices that have been found to have been practiced with other ancient communities and traditions, like in Egypt and North Africa and like other areas, right? So in West Africa, I mean, so this is nothing new, our way of connecting to land and to ancestry and to spirit, and through movement and breath and meditation. So yoga, yes, is definitely seeded by people of color. And when I say it's spiritual, it is your relationship to something that you believe in bigger than you. And so we call this experience many different names depending on your practice and your faith. So it doesn't privilege one over the other, which is why so many people who practice faith tradition and many who do not are able to then also join yoga because they feel like they're not being forced to choose and to separate themselves from their own belief system, should they have one. So what I'm noticing in the West, and this dates far beyond me, other people have voiced this, is that in the West and within the United States, because this practice has been tied to capitalism, making a small business out of it, it has been called prohibitive. It has been cutting people out from the experience of practicing in the community. And what happens is that because our society is very racialized and the inequities continue to permeate across economics, politics, predominantly within communities of color that are then shut out from these opportunities, yoga is another way that this is happening within modern studio practice. How do I do this? How do I navigate through this? I've been doing a lot of writing on it. I just released an article about a couple months ago called Amplify Black Voices, Yoga, You Can Do Better. And that was released on Elephant Journal's digital platform. I also am about to release a sound art piece called Ahimsa, the audio memoir on yoga, wellness, and Black lives in 2020, where I gather Black yoga instructors and studio owners who are actively doing the work to help us be well at this time. So I'm writing, I'm creating, and I'm also joining in community with other leaders who are of color and just not waiting for white studios to be inclusive. I'm not waiting for that. And as we're doing that, we're building and bringing in more people who really need it at this time.
Can you say the name of I think you said audiobook is Ahimsa? Am I saying that right?
Ahimsa.
And what is Ahimsa? What is the meaning behind that word?
Yes. The meaning behind Ahimsa is non-harm. Yeah.
Non-harm.
It is the first yama. So it is the first, so they're called the yamas and the niyamas. And the yamas are your way of being with the world, with other people. And the first one is like, can you not harm other people? Can you practice ahimsa? And I titled it that's in Sanskrit, in English is not harm. I titled it that because in 2020, I haven't really seen much of that being practiced.
Truthfully speaking, right? I mean, we just have not seen that. I think that's such a powerful title.
Thank you.
I love what you grounded it in. I love that you went back to Sanskrit as well. Thank you so much. And we're going to ask you more about that. But I want to take us back to something you said, and something that's kind of permeated what you said here, the people who need it most. And going back to your own practice and talking about, like, do the practice that works for you, do the movement that works for you. And so I'm thinking about, in my life, meditation is like something that is just, if I start my day with meditation, I'm probably going to have a good day. That's just how it works. It's just how it works. And if you ask me, hey, Joe, have you been meditating? I'd be like, when? Oh, no. The answer is no. And if you ask me, like, how have you been? I'd be like, horrible. I wouldn't say, I'm fine. Say fine, right? I'm fine, right? But the truth is, when we need it most, I find that, at least in my life, that's when I neglect it the most. So how do we make self-care sustainable?
You create a routine where it becomes routine. So in the morning, no matter what I'm feeling, when I wake up, I meditate. And I don't necessarily meditate like sitting upright, ready to go, because that's just not how my mornings go. And I don't beat myself up over that, right? Like, if I'm laying down in my bed, okay, I'm still meditating.
Yeah.
You gotta make it part of your way of living, and not make it so that it has to be a certain way all the time, every time. So if you're sitting up, cool. If you're laying down, fine. If you're doing it when you just have a moment of quiet, you have like 3 minutes by yourself, and you're just doing it, that's meditation, right? Like, you just got to do it. And then secondly, I teach yoga weekly, and often I have people in positions where, oh my God, after like 2 minutes, like they want to move and they're trying to squirm out of it. I teach a slow, gentle yoga class. And I got the fiery classes, but right now people need to be nourished and need to go slow and gentle, right? And so when they're in these postures and I see them and they're like trying to squirm or whatever, I just say, breathe. Like, the very moment you need your breath the most is the moment most of us don't let ourselves receive what we need.
Do you remember what you just said? Can you please say that again? Oh my goodness.
The very moment when we need our breath is the very moment most of us don't allow ourselves to receive what we need.
That's another word. I'm telling you, preaching tonight. But you know what? I think both those points you made are so true, because so many of us deal with the projections of how we think this is supposed to go, or who we think, or how they do it, right? So someone's at home thinking, well, Yasmin must sit up straight, and she has her yoga mat laid out, her water by her side, her towel over her shoulder, the sunlight through the window. And so you have created this idea in your mind that if I don't have those same parameters, I can't do this. And what you said there at the end, I mean, at the moment we need it most, we just need to tell ourselves to breathe. And you have to do it in a situation that works for you, right? Everyone's circumstances and atmosphere is different, but you have to find that moment. I mean, I think 2020 has exemplified that, right? We have people that are taking Zoom calls in closets, right? We have folks that have turned corners into offices, literally, right? You have to make do with what you have.
And had to.
You know, and so I haven't spoken about this since the moment that it happened, but it was the day of, it was election day, November 3rd, and I promised myself, I was like, absolutely not. I can't. I cast my ballot, and what happens is out of my hands, out of my control. You know, serenity prayer in my life, right? I cannot control the outcome, so I will not pay attention to this outcome because it's going to bring me stress. So there was this amazing, I think it's called like street dance activism, partnered with some students and they made a whole day of like, just move your body. And had I been really thinking, I would be like, yes, but like, it was beautiful. And then at the end, we had a dance party, and it was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. And we closed the night at midnight with like a meditative space. And this woman who's leading it, she's like, you're entitled to your breath. You're entitled to your safety. When I tell you I did not recover, I didn't know that breath was triggering. I had no idea that that was a trigger for me. But I could not, my body rejected this idea of like, yes, while I know that that's true, that's not what I'm seeing in reality. And so like, I think that now talking about that, I'm like, maybe that's why I haven't sat and just closed my eyes, because I think that thinking about like how my breath is truly what is keeping me alive and giving my body all that is needed is also being stolen from people that look like me.
And in that moment, might I ask that you don't want to experience that discomfort?
I was just bawling. I was sitting. I couldn't. It was uncontrollable. It was just like it took me by surprise. I couldn't even hide it because I had no idea. It was a thing. And I realized, really, what I realized was like, self-care has not been happening because I'm too busy. I'm too busy to do this body work. I'm too busy to make time to emote. Because going to school full time and working full time doesn't leave room for me to fall apart and have these emotional outbursts, if you will. And so listening to you, I'm like, oh man, I've really got to make this time.
So you talk about this need to be on, is what I'm hearing. You're going to school full time, you're working, and you don't have time to not be on. You don't have time to breathe and to emote and to feel what has been denied collectively and visually. Like, we have witnessed so much death. Like, it's broadcasted like it's normal. And so all that trauma, we're feeling all of that. And so if we don't have a safe, nourishing and nurturing place to be off, to come apart, however that feels, to feel that discomfort, to move it in and out, it's gonna get more and more difficult in 2020 with all this death that continues to happen. So what I say to that is, please do not feel guilt or shame, because so many of us have not had the privilege and opportunity to take a moment, because how can we in the midst of all that is upon us right now in 2020? So what you can do is, little by little, you can let the air out of the balloon. Maybe 3 minutes meditate. 2 minutes you write down in your journal, just free write how you're feeling. 1 minute to breathe in and exhale out. 3 minutes to read a word or words that have given you inspiration and guidance and grounding, and know that whatever it looks like for you in that moment doesn't have to be the same thing the next moment, the next day. Please free yourself of that.
I receive your instruction.
Yeah.
Those are life lessons.
Ooh,
Life lessons.
My goodness.
I almost feel like we need a moment of silence now to really sit with all that you just offered us. Wow. What you're saying, it really reminds me of one of the books from our classes, Joe. It reminds me of my grandmother's hands.
Yeah.
By Resmaa Menakem.
Yes.
That the body work, the way in which our bodies have become so constricted with all the ills of the world, the weight of our ancestors, our familial obligations, just so much. I mean, I can go down an entire list. And if we don't find moments to release that.
And you heard what I said in that class too.
The heaviness is definite.
If we don't find ways to release it, it stays in us and it becomes dis-ease.
It eats at us from the inside out.
Exactly. Which is how, when you asked me in the beginning of the session, how did I come to wellness? Well, that second journey, like that did me in. I had 2 tumors and lost my, like, there was just, I was at the bottom. I hit rock bottom. Like, there's just no way I could conceive of how to live another day the way I used to. And Joe, you even mentioned it earlier. You said, I was born dead, so I'm not afraid to die, right? You live as if you're not. Like, that experience of being so close to no longer being of vitality is enough to change the way you live the rest of your days. And you had that from your first moment here. And I had a bit of that when I got very, very sick. And that's what I see in our families, in our communities. We embody so much pain and we just walk with so much suffering that if we don't tell ourselves and the people we love to just release a little bit every day, how are we might lose you early.
Yeah. The body, what is it? The body keeps the score is, you know, and it really does, because when you do not have time and you hold it, it festers. And you said something to me that is just so accurate. And if, you know, there's an episode where Ty goes, you don't know how to enjoy yourself, which is funny, because anybody who knows me is like, what are you talking about? Joe is the life of every party that she's ever been to at any point in time. But Ty knows, and I know, and now we know exactly what he meant by you don't know how to enjoy yourself. You don't know how to breathe. And I feel like this time has only magnified that, because I also live by myself. So I'm like, what do I want to not be on for? Like to look in my house by myself? So like, how do you create boundaries and say no when like every meeting is literally a click away, like X out? Yes. Like, how do you create boundaries for your time when people, even if you're trying to, people expect you to be available because they know you're at home. Believe me.
Right. Wait a minute. How do I do it? It hasn't been easy. I thought by this point that I would have had it down. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna, because a lot of people think, oh, you're a yoga instructor. Like, you can find ease and peace. Like, I'm on this mat because I need it too, like a lot. Like, please, this mat is what allows me to not fly off and tell you what I think I need to tell you that won't be beneficial in the end. So, how do I do it? I mean, some things I have to just say no to.
Mm.
Oh, and I will say this. Sustainability also comes from like internally taking care of yourself and your physical wellness, but your financial stability and sustainability. So if I'm sick of being underpaid, I don't get underpaid anymore.
Know your worth, Black Queen. Know it. Yes. Pay what I am worth.
Yeah, so like that's a boundary. Like, I'm not available for you to pull of my labor and then not support me financially at all, especially right now.
The burden of the work is always put on Black women's shoulders, is it not?
Every single time. And we managed to rise. And
for the praise to be stolen from you after the fact.
Listen.
Thinking of the election, since that was mentioned.
You know, Stacey Abrams still managed to win the election for us. And I promise the runoff, she's about to do work there too. Listen, the Senate will be blue. It will be because of a Black woman. And in your life, as a Black woman, you know, as a trailblazer in your own right, what important women have taught you about self-care?
My grandmother. I think of my grandmother, and you know, some people might not find this important, but as a little girl, I watched her run a business. She owned a hair salon in Baltimore City, and she was also a principal at an elementary school. And she had 2 jobs and looked flawless. I mean, put together, but I also know part of that was her armor. And what I also saw was her ability to enjoy herself when she was off. Like, that's a thing, to see Black women at rest and not feel guilty about receiving like time off and like enjoying themselves. I'm very happy I had that image of a woman who is ambitious and living out her dreams and also caring for herself. I did that from my grandmother. And like, going to the hair salon and getting your hair done was a way to receive and relax. And like, that is a thing. So like, some people might not understand that this is important, but to see a woman put time into caring for herself, getting her hair done, nails, like, that wasn't frivolous. That is self-care. That is, you know, she needed that time. And then to employ so many other women to then be able to, you know, financially sustain themselves and their families. You know, just growing up seeing my grandmother just be an entrepreneur and take care of herself.
Yeah. We all need those mentors, those figures that show us the way, right? That are always just, they're imparting knowledge without even trying to do so, right? Just the way in which they live their lives. and us being a witness to that. One quote I just wanted to, because I mentioned the book earlier and I wanted to highlight it really quickly, is this quote from the book that Joe and I are reading as part of our ethnic studies class. Shout out to Dr. V, Dr. Christina Villarreal. Thank you. Shout out to her. Our ethnic studies class at Hugsy at Harvard Graduate School of Education. And so it says, trauma is also a wordless story our body tells itself about what is safe and what is a threat. And I really think about the way in which we have internalized so many parts of our life, so many spaces. And as a teacher, I think about all the students that I've had that have internalized school as a threat to them.
Yeah. And I don't have my book on me, but I love his reframe. And it's kind of everything you've been talking about. It's like, people think of trauma just as an experience. Trauma is something that occurs in your body, and it is a protective mechanism, the way you respond. And that just blew my mind. And it's like, that's why you have to go inside of this place that holds that pain, that holds it. And, speaking of school, can I take us back full circle? Will you talk to us about how you brought healing practices into the classroom, and just a little bit about, we're teachers, we can't help we can't help. You're a teacher too. Like, oh man. And we'll get to her yoga classes. You can tell she's a teacher. Like, this woman just knows what she is doing. Okay. Like, online. It's so good. Like, take us back to the classroom.
Wow. I'm just shaking you. Being in that classroom with 30 children who really trusted me to support and guide them, and their parents did the same. Knowing that outside of my classroom, I didn't know if they were going to be held the way I held them in my classroom in somebody else's class. I didn't know.
That's a real fear.
So when they were with me in that room, they knew and felt that my expression of teaching was an expression of care and concern and love. Because I didn't want no one to graduate from 7th or 8th grade not having come through learning about their history. So as a 7th grade social studies teacher, I rewrote the entire curriculum that I taught, because I was like, I don't know where else I don't know if you're gonna get this in somebody else's classroom, you might not. But what I do know is that you're gonna leave here stronger, a story of self, story of understanding of your history, and then stronger in character and how you see yourself and your own worth. And so we're gonna do that by learning together through the stories of people who've come before us that have weathered so much and have created so much for us to be. So it was through my curriculum. It was through my practiced expression of care and concern in the way that I interacted with them and their parents. So like, I wasn't one of these transactional teachers. I was very relational. Like,
tell the truth.
Right? You can't do this work unless you have deep, meaningful, trusting relationships with the very families of which children who are our students are part of. Like, I'm not going to separate families from students and in my class. No. It is a privilege for me to be invited in and for you to trust me with your son and daughter or your grandchild to then teach them every day and share this with them. So whatever I share, I want to make sure you know what I'm sharing. And if you have something else to offer or have a concern, please, like, I am not above anybody. And we're going to have to do this together for curriculum, relationships, and then in terms of assessment. So, okay, yeah, I understand we have standardized tests, but how do I actually know that you've taken in what we've shared, what we've learned together? And how would you like to express that you have taken it in? How do you want to show that you have comprehended and taken and understood what we've shared? So do you want to do that creatively? Do you want to do that analytically? Both? Do you want to do that through the test? Do you want to do that orally? I just like in yoga when I teach, anything I teach, you gotta give people options to show what they know and what they have understood. And so 3 things, I'll go back. Curriculum, relationship, and then assessment. And that's how I showed that I cared and how I provided care in that classroom. And I didn't have like behavior concerns and issues. Like I didn't have like a plan for like discipline. I was like, I have to be prevented. Like I have to upfront like build the relationships and like I'm not gonna. I don't know. I just didn't get the whole like. I came from a school that did a lot of like points taken off for like acting.
Demerits.
Yep.
No.
No.
That's transactional and not relational.
Yeah.
Lord, I'm just like, can I go back? I want to be in your class. I don't know how I would have ever got in there, but like, I just want to be, because you being like held with care and love. That was not an experience that I had, except with 2 teachers in elementary through high school, and just thinking about what you said about knowing your history. And I talk to Ty all the time. I'm an adult learning about these new Black people. I'm learning about my ancestors right now. How can I know the strength that I have inside? I don't even know that they exist as a part of me. Yeah. So the fact that you were like, no, this curriculum, absolutely not. Out the window. You will know about you. You will know the truth about you. And the truth really does set you free. And I'm like, is this what people meant? Because as I've learned more about myself, the more freedom and strength I have felt, and how empowered I felt to be myself, to challenge, because those who came before me challenged, and I have their strength. So thank you for what you've done for the youth. Thank you so much. Because that created ripples in the community. They are out now, well informed about who they are, because you took the time to love and pour into them. Because you took the time to pour into yourself. You learned how to do that.
And like, honestly, I'm still learning to, like, I don't know all of our, like, I'm still learning too. So
I think it's one of the things that you're always, it's a forever ascension. I call them like asymptotes. Yeah, like, you know, like you're never actually going to get there, but you can get close. You have to keep going. You have to go. You have to keep working. It's like your ideal self. You never get your perfect ideal self. You're never like just perfectly like, oh yeah, no, I'm just perfect at this thing. So I think hearing that and knowing that, because it's a journey means setbacks. It means progress. It means all of these different kind of interactions that you give yourself grace and space for. So I appreciate, like, looking at you. I feel just like the people Ty was talking about, like, oh nah, she probably just got this.
No.
Like, knowing that it's a journey, I'm just like, oh my goodness. But I don't know. Can I ever get there? Oh my goodness. When do you teach? When do you teach, Dr. Moody?
Yeah. So every month I host something called Nourish Saturdays. And the next one is December 12th, and we meet from 10 to 11:15. During this time together, we receive a practice designed to nourish, support, guide, release. And we do this through a gentle yoga sequence. I teach yin yoga, where we hold our postures for longer, that encourages more introspection and just more opportunity to let go and really allow the places in your body that have been receiving so much tension to have an opportunity to lengthen and release some of that. We do journal work. We're a community, so we meet every month, so there are a lot of familiar folks in there. Breath work, and then I also lead us in a meditation. So you can join us for the next Nourish Saturday on December 12th.
Sounds like a date.
Yeah, I'm like, I might definitely be there. I'm like trying to think what I might have to do, but I'm like, I might need to move that, because that just sounds so restorative, and just what I need. I need to get moving, and I need to go inside. So before you lead us in a breathing exercise, will you just give us a perspective pivot? And what I mean by that is this whole season is about acknowledging that we are in 2020, which has been, you know, let's just call it what it is, a shit show.
Yeah.
And however, through that, there are gems. And we are trying to work on focusing on those things. So if there is one thing that you would want people to pivot their perspective on, what would it be?
I was asked about 3 months ago, one word to describe 2020. People had their different words, and painful, challenging, traumatic, upsetting. And my word was revelatory. 2020 has been revealing. So all that you have seen and witnessed, just know it is the unvarnishing of our experience here. It is you seeing clearly what has always been, and maybe you might not have wanted to see it, but now that you see it and you are clear about it, it's an opportunity for you to choose with discernment what you want your next step to be that changes what you see. Because now once you see, once you know better, you do better. Like, what do you want to do now that you see?
Wow. When you see better, you can do better.
Sure.
When you know better, you do better. Right. I love revelatory.
Yeah, revelatory. It's been revealing, right? Like
100%. 100%. I think of things that, and you said that, like that have always been there. Now the blindfolds, if they were on, are gone. Ooh, I love that.
So now that you see the terrain, you can navigate it better. That's all. They just gave us some old maps, and now the maps don't work because we get to really see what the terrain is. Okay, well then I'm gonna navigate this terrain a little bit more because I got this more information.
Talk about it.
Thank you for that. And so, will you take us inside?
Yeah. Let's do it. Okay, so nice and tall. If you have a pillow or blanket nearby, you can place it underneath your sits bones. You're welcome to close your eyes or take your gaze downward. And notice your breath. Nothing to do other than notice your breath. What does it feel like to receive your inhalation? Does your breath feel short, rattled, calm, consistent? Sit with what is and what it feels like for you in this moment. And know that if you are getting distracted by thoughts, that's okay. Let the thoughts keep coming and going, because that's what the mind does. It creates thought. You witness it. Focus on your breath. Inhale through your nose, fill up your belly. Really take in breath. Don't be afraid. Breathe in and breathe out. Inhale. Expand your abdomen with air. Exhale, pull your abdomen towards your spine. Let's breathe together. Inhale. Exhale. Breath in. Exhale. breathe in. Hold your breath with ease, not force. Open your mouth, sigh out. A few more together, breathe in. Pause at the top. Open mouth, sigh. Really pull your belly in as you breathe out. Receive the breath, inhale. Pause at the top. Open mouth, sigh. Come back to your natural rhythm of breath. Know that your way of receiving nourishing breath in is always available to you. In the moments of when you are tense and feel you have no way out of the situation, you can always come back to your breath in through your nose and out. Breathe in and breathe out. Last one together, inhale. Pause. Open your mouth, sigh out. Open your eyes. Thank you for joining us this evening. I look forward to seeing you on your mat and practicing and listening to another podcast with Joe and Ty. I'm Yasmin. Thank you again. Yeah.
Be good to yourselves.
Yeah, take care.
Be true to yourself.
Remember to educate yourself.
We'll see you on the 3rd. Thank you,
Peace.
Dr. Lumby.
Thank you.